the Library of the Forgotten. In the quiet town of Hollowbrook, an abandoned school sat at the edge of a dense forest. For years, it had stood untouched, its windows shattered, its walls crumbling under the weight of time. The townspeople often whispered about the place, but no one dared to enter. There were rumors of strange noises echoing from the building at night, of lights flickering in the upper windows despite the lack of power. But the most persistent tale was one told by the town's oldest resident, Mrs. Maeve, who swore that beneath the school, hidden away from prying eyes, was a library that could unravel the secrets of the universe. One rainy afternoon, a group of teenagers, led by the curious and adventurous Anna, decided to investigate. They had heard the stories and were drawn to the mystery like moths to a flame. With flashlights in hand, they ventured into the school, their footsteps echoing through the long-abandoned hallways. As they descended into the basement, they found it, an old wooden door partially hidden behind rusted filing cabinets. It creaked open with little effort, revealing a narrow staircase that spiraled down into darkness. Anna, the first to descend, felt a strange chill in the air as she reached the bottom. The others followed, and they found themselves in a vast underground chamber, lined with shelves upon shelves of dusty leather-bound books. The room smelled of old paper and mildew, and the only sound was the soft drip of water from the ceiling. In the center of the room stood an ornate wooden desk, its surface cluttered with old parchment and ink stains. But it was the books that captivated them. They seemed to shimmer faintly as though beckoning them closer. Each spine was intricately carved, but none bore titles, just strange symbols that none of them recognized. Anna pulled a book from the shelf, its pages yellowed with age. As she flipped through the first few pages, she gasped. The book seemed to know her, every secret she had ever kept, every moment of her life. There, in black ink, was a detailed account of her past, including memories she had long forgotten. And then it detailed her future, events that had yet to happen. The others, intrigued and horrified, began pulling books from the shelves, each finding their own stories written in the pages. Some were delighted, others terrified as their futures were laid bare. But as they read, something strange began to happen. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, their memories started to slip away. Anna's heart raced as she realized she could no longer remember her childhood home, her best friend from grade school, or even the names of her parents. Her hands trembled as she turned the pages, her mind growing foggy with each word. One by one, her friends began to panic. "I don't remember where I came from," Sarah whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "What's happening to us?" "It's the library," Anna murmured, her voice distant. "The more you read, the more you forget." The group tried to leave, but the way out was no longer clear. The door they had entered through had vanished, and the shelves seemed to stretch on endlessly in all directions. Desperation began to set in as they realized the full weight of the curse they had awakened. As the hours passed, the group's memories continued to fade, replaced by a growing sense of emptiness. They had read too much. They had uncovered truths meant to remain hidden, and now they were paying the price. The books had promised them knowledge, but at the cost of everything they had once been. Anna, now barely able to recall her own name, stood at the center of the room, surrounded by the books that had taken so much from her. She felt a strange sensation, a pull as though something was calling her from the depths of the library. She reached for the nearest book, desperate to understand why this place existed, why it demanded such a terrible sacrifice. But as her fingers brushed against the pages, the words shifted, and she saw her own face staring back at her, a hollow, forgotten version of herself. The last thing Anna remembered before everything went black was the sound of the door opening, of someone or something stepping into the library. She didn't know who they were, only that they would soon face the same fate. The Library of the Forgotten had claimed its new victims, their memories lost to the pages. And so, it waited, ever patient, for the next curious soul to stumble upon its secrets. And when they did, their stories would be written in the books. Forever. As the darkness of the library deepened, Anna's fading consciousness barely registered the sound of the door creaking open. The air shifted, colder now, and a whispering draft seemed to stir the pages of the books, as though they were alive, eager to greet a new presence. Then, through the haze of her diminishing memories, she heard a voice, faint at first like a distant echo. It grew louder, more distinct, though Anna couldn't place it. The voice was old, ancient even, yet strangely comforting in its tone. "I wondered when you'd find it." The footsteps that followed were slow, deliberate, as if the person knew exactly where they were going. The person, or thing, that stepped into the room was shrouded in shadow, its figure obscured by a cloak of darkness that seemed to absorb the light. But what stood before them now was not human, or at least not fully. The figure was tall, unnaturally so, with skin as pale as marble, and eyes that glowed faintly, like two silver coins gleaming in the dark. It wore no cloak but was wrapped in a swirling mist that seemed to bend and twist, as if it were alive. Its hair, or what might have been hair, moved in slow undulations as if caught in an unseen breeze. Anna's fading mind struggled to make sense of what she was seeing. The figure stepped forward, its movements fluid and graceful, yet filled with a quiet, unnerving power. "I see you've read," it said, its voice laced with both amusement and sorrow. "I see what you've found. The library has taken much from you already, hasn't it? Memory is a price, a steep one. But it is not without its rewards." The figure paused, its glowing eyes studying the disoriented group of teenagers, each now standing frozen in place, their hands still clutching the books that had stripped them of their past. Their faces were vacant, empty echoes of who they once were. "I am its keeper," the figure continued, its presence drawing closer to Anna. "And I am its prisoner just as you will be. But you see, I have chosen to remain." Anna felt an odd pull, a strange connection to the figure, as though it was somehow familiar, like a part of her that had been erased. She tried to speak but the words were lost. Her lips moved but nothing came out. She felt nothing but a deep, gnawing emptiness inside her, a void that stretched deeper than any fear she had ever known. The figure took another step, its long, delicate fingers reaching for the nearest book. It opened it with ease as though it had done so countless times before, and began to read aloud, though the words seemed to echo through Anna's mind, not in the room. "Anna, daughter of Mark and Eleanor. A child who once dreamed of becoming an artist. You sought to know the future, and in doing so you erased yourself." Anna's heart clenched. How does it know? The memories that had already started to fade flickered back just for a moment. She remembered her mother's laughter, her father's warm embrace, the smell of paintbrushes and fresh canvas. But just as quickly they were gone, replaced by the eerie silence of the library. "I have watched many like you come and go," the figure said softly. "Seeking answers, chasing shadows, only to lose themselves in the process. But this is not the end. Oh no, this is just the beginning." The figure slowly closed the book, its fingers lingering on the cover as if savoring the finality of its act. It turned its gaze back to the group, its expression unreadable. "You are not the first to wander into this place," the figure murmured. "And you will not be the last. Those who dare to read the books here are bound to the library. To know its secrets is to surrender your memories, your essence. And once you leave you can never truly leave. Not completely." It paused again as if weighing something before continuing in a softer, almost wistful tone. "The library has chosen you," the figure said, its voice a whisper now, "as it has chosen countless others. And now you must choose. Will you remain like me, a keeper of the forgotten? Or will you return, a shadow of your former selves, never quite whole?" Anna felt herself drawn to the books once more. Her hands moved almost involuntarily, reaching for the nearest one. Her heart raced as she realized the terrible truth. To remain would be to give up everything she was, but to leave would mean to lose everything else, the pieces of herself that would never come back. She had already lost so much. But before she could take the book in her hands, a thought flickered in her mind. A memory, just a fragment, but it was enough. The library. It is not a place of knowledge. It is a prison. Her vision blurred, and in that moment she understood. The library did not merely hold secrets, it enslaved them, trapping those who sought its truths in an endless cycle of loss and despair. Anna dropped the book. Her friends followed suit, dropping their own as well, though they had no memory of ever holding them. And then, in an instant, the figure was gone as though it had never been there at all. The library too began to fade, the shelves and the books dissolving into mist. The air seemed to tremble and Anna felt a heavy pressure on her chest. She could not remember her name, her past, or her future. All she knew was that the library had let them go, for now. But the keeper's words echoed in her mind. "You will always return." And in the deepest corners of her soul, Anna knew it was true. The Library of the Forgotten would always be waiting. As the mist swirled around them, the air grew thick with an unnatural silence. The last traces of the library began to dissipate, like a dream fading at the first light of morning. The stone walls of the basement seemed to reappear around them, the shelves and the books vanishing entirely. The cold, damp stone was all that remained. Anna stood still, her head spinning as though she had just woken from a long sleep. Her friends, equally disoriented, looked around in confusion, their faces blank slates, void of recognition or memory. They were free but they had nothing left. What happened? Sarah asked softly, her voice trembling as she glanced at Anna, then at the others. Anna opened her mouth to speak, but the words felt like they were slipping away, like they were buried beneath layers of dust and time. She couldn't remember how to explain what had just happened, or even how to articulate the cold emptiness that gnawed at her insides. "I don't know," Anna replied, the words feeling hollow like they weren't her own. She wiped a hand over her face, trying to shake off the numbness that had settled deep within her. But the more she focused, the more the details of her past became harder to recall. They stumbled out of the school, their steps slow and unsteady, unsure of where they were going. The rain had stopped, and the town of Hollowbrook looked unchanged, peaceful, almost idyllic, like a place from a dream. But Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, something had broken. They never spoke of the library again. In fact, none of them ever spoke of the experience to anyone. It was as though the memories of what had happened beneath the abandoned school had been erased completely from their minds. Time passed as it always does and life moved on. But Anna felt the lingering emptiness within her, a void that she couldn't explain but couldn't ignore either. Years later, Anna found herself walking past the old school again. It was now a dilapidated ruin, covered in ivy, the windows shattered and the doors long since rotted away. The forest around it had grown thick and wild, encroaching on the grounds like nature reclaiming what was lost. She stopped in front of the school, her breath catching in her throat. There was a faint whisper on the wind, as though it were calling her. And then, like a terrible echo from the past, she heard the same voice from the library. "Anna?" Her heart raced. She turned, almost expecting to see the shadowy figure there, standing in the doorway of the school, waiting for her. But the figure was not there. The voice, though, lingered in her mind, faint but undeniable. The library had not gone. It never left. It had simply waited, hidden in the corners of her mind, for the right moment to resurface. Anna clenched her fists, fighting the surge of fear that welled up inside her. She had already lost so much. She couldn't lose more. But as she turned to leave, something caught her eye. A small piece of paper, crumpled and torn, lay on the ground near the school's entrance. She bent down almost unwillingly and picked it up. It was a single page from a book. The handwriting was familiar, though she could not place why. As she read the words, her heart skipped a beat. "This place will never forget you. The library calls you, Anna. You will return." The ink was smeared as though someone had written it hastily, but the message was clear. The library had not let go. It was waiting for her to come back. And it would not be denied. Anna stood frozen in place, the words echoing in her mind, and for the first time since that day beneath the school, she understood the full horror of what the library truly was. It wasn't just a place of forgotten memories. It was a parasite, feeding on those who sought it out, drawing them back time and time again. And no matter how hard she tried, no matter how much she erased from her own mind, it would always find a way to bring her back. With trembling hands, Anna crushed the note and threw it to the ground. But deep down, she knew it wouldn't be the last time she heard its call. The Library of the Forgotten had claimed its last victim, and in doing so, had ensured that its curse would never end. Anna could never forget. And soon neither would the world.